Good evening, everyone. Tonight's talk is Fashionable Sunderland, 1890 to 1970. And we have a dedicated follower of fashion, Mr. Curtis, to give the talk.
Right. Thanks so very much. Rick, and do the lights and we'll start. Right. 80 years of Sunderland fashion, and when the little advert for it was put up, I did mention that Sunderland was a height of fashion. And Sunderland, in my view, there are two periods when Sunderland can compare with London and Paris. Well, Paris, perhaps not, for fashion. And these periods, the first period was the end of the Victorian era, last few years, and the Edwardian era. There was money in the town, real money. Sunderland was then the biggest shipbuilding town in the world, and the money reflected that. People who lived in the west end of our town were the ship owners and other people who owned businesses. And where there's money, the shops will reflect the need for the people who have that money. And certainly Sunderland had lots of people at that time with the money. The other period, which I think gets consideration for it, and a lot of you would have lived through it, was the second half of the 1950s, believe it or not, and the early part of the 1960s, because then the Jewish sector of Sunderland was at its zenith. We had nearly 1,600 a Jewish community living in this town, running businesses, and hence living in the west end of the town. West is best, just like London, west is best, and spending their money within the city, in the town. So the need was there, and the shops provided for that need. And if you went to the town in those periods, yes, there were poor people, and that's not what my talk's about tonight. The further east you went in the city, but the further west there was people with money, and you would see elegance on the streets of Sunderland. I know it seems, well, we do see some of the people here are elegant, but you know what I'm talking about. And the late 50s as well, early 60s. And I'm going to show you all that. We're going to have a troll through the photographs, look at people dressed and why they were dressed. You know, we dressed for audiences, we dressed for the seasons, we dressed to the occasions. But generally speaking, my own view is that standards within our towns and within Britain, British towns, have fallen since some of these periods I'm going to tell you about. Right. The photograph that you see up there, you might be wondering where it is. It's around about 1900, the photograph. And this is one of the stores in Sunderland that were offering clothes. It's like Downton Abbey's visiting it, isn't it? This is the Havelock store. The Havelock House store, which was on the corner of High Street West and Forster Street. It became later the Havelock Cinema, then the Gorman Cinema, which you probably know about. All being pulled down. But if you look very carefully at the end, that end of John Street, you can see the upper apartments of this place where the workshops were. So people were yearning to be see, there was no newspapers with photographs in. There was magazines. There was no television. So you were reliable on the shops of Sunderland to see what you wanted, and you dressed according to your status as well. So let's start with a few photographs. This chap lived in Park Place, St. Bede's Terrace, which is just out the back, really, isn't it? Back there. St. Bede's Terrace, mid-1890s, and that's 1896. His how he dressed, starch collar, his moustache waxed, his haircut, and by God, does he look smart? That would be a studded collar, stood at the front, stood at the back. And of course, he lived across the way with his family who dressed in black. A lot of people in the late Victorian era were still wearing black because Queen Victoria was still wearing black. She didn't, I don't think after Albert died, she ever wore anything but black. And that became the national colour to be wearing. It wasn't a colourful era at the end of the Victorians. And here they are in St. Bede's Terrace across there. The usual haircut of the late 1890s. The little curls at the front, the hair pushed back into a bun. There it is. She's wearing black. And she's not showing any flesh whatsoever, apart from her face and her hands. You find the dresses even went right to the floor. And you can imagine if you were going out shopping, and it was wet, your bottom of your dress was going to get dirty quickly and wet. They put sort of extra material around the bottom, a bit of braid around the bottom, so that they didn't ruin the clothes with the length of the dresses. But you can see she's posing there, that building's still there, and there's the family. And let's have a look at the family. We've got boys here with knickerbockers on, you can see that, plus fours, and there she is, again. The family's still all in black. We've got the gentleman with his elegant suit. Suits in those days did not have, well, until the Edwardian period, did not have a crease. Your trousers would not have a crease at all. And of course, I'm just trying to tell you, the way these are dressed are based upon, let me move on them again. Here, we've changed the dress. They dress like little Lord Fauntleroy. Now, you think that, if you walk to the town centre in the late 1890s, most of the children you'd see would be dressed like this. Boys, I should say, of course. Boys would be dressed like that. Because Francis Hodgson Burnett, who wrote The Secret Garden, you might have read, no, that one's probably more famous than Little Lord Fauntleroy. But the images, the illustrations in the book Little Lord Fauntleroy, this was this, with the border, the flat hat, he's got it exactly here, this family here. The border, the trousers like that, the little border, and the collar. And some of the collars they got were quite wide. Collars were, you rarely see a photograph in Sunderland of one of the main streets, and we've got thousands of them, without seeing a child. If you've seen children, they will have that collar on, the boys will anyway. For leisure, a lot of the children were dressed in sailor suits. Sounds crazy now, but that's what the royal family did with their family. So we're going to do the same. We're going to copy them. We'll dress our children in sailor suits. And the third type of dress that we would see around the 1890s was the smock dress. This was done by a designer called Kate Greenaway, and it was based on a farmer's type of dress. I put it buttoned up at the back or tied up at the back. It meant to keep your normal dress clean. And children right up to early secondary age would be seen in these smocks. They'd be all over the town. And here, so this is Sea Road, the full. I've just looked for some photographs where the girls with the smock dresses were. This is Sea Road, changed a lot now, man, because it was residential, wasn't it? Along there. Fulwell School will be there, and these children are coming along, I believe, from Fulwell School. I think it's 1901. I think that they've been celebrating either the opening of the school or the coronation of George VI, of Edward VII, sorry, of Edward VII. But nearly all the girls in that, it's not school uniform, you just sent, that was what you wore normally, you were sent there. Again, I've looked for some shots where might be wearing the smocks. There's a Silverton Road Bank, you might recognise it. The Ship Isis pub is there, so you know where you are. And here they are, you see the smocks there. And of course, all the roads were full of that as well about it at the time. The trams were obviously really there at the time, but there would be horse-drawn trams, there would be. So children were wearing them. And here's another example. This is Castletown Council School. Right? I just put this one on just to show you these collars, really. Every child, was it school uniform? I don't believe it was. But I think it must have been compulsory, otherwise they wouldn't be wearing them. And he's a shot showing off both what I've told you about the I let it go because it goes to the girls with smocks and she turns round one of them and you can see how it was buttoned at the back. Oh, bless them.
Look at them boomers and clogs.
They've all got the soft hats on. One of them can't do it in the right order. Right, now the girls. This is what I was talking about. You can see. Come on, and they'll do something. This was PE lesson, I think. And they'll turn around. A very rare piece of it, film this. And you can see the backs. Let me see. Oh, it must be the next one. I know you can. I don't know what she's got on. She's putting it. Turn around. Well, we'll get it. Hang on. The other ones, don't you come? And there it is. See how it was done up at the back. Right. Of course, in some schools, I'm trying to talk about the people who could afford the new fashions. But a lot of people couldn't. So I'll put one or two examples in. This is Southwick School, and you can see, well, the arms have tried to keep up with the fashion. This lad's got the collar on, he's got the flat cap, but look at this, bare feet. And it doesn't look as if it's the summertime, so some children, if you couldn't afford it, they just went without.
Subscribe to our channel and we'll let you know when there's a new video to watch. The subscribe button is below the video next to the like, share and comment icons. To watch another video, just click on one of the pictures above the arrows now.